Hi, I have been wanting to talk on manifestation for quite a while, and I had a few things that I needed to dissect, look into, and get some confirmation on before I begin. And all of that finally came through, and the words just finally came to me for articulation so I can communicate this. So, manifestation is how do I explain this? It's trending right now. There's a lot to do with manifestation. And a lot of people think you can just plug it in and voila, you just think hard enough and it will happen. And that's not at all what's happening. It's almost like I see a lot of people getting manifestation backwards. And I remember reading a few articles. One of them was from Forbes magazine and or Forbes.com. Do we do magazines still? Forbes.com, and they explained that one of the things it really stuck out to me. It was 10 things that billionaires all have in common, or 10 things that all billionaires do. And one of the things that really stuck out at me was they all meditate. Now that's my department. And I went, whoa, it's interesting. Why do they all meditate? So I went on a few billionaire dating apps. Yes, those exist. And I went on several dates for about a year with a plethora of millionaires and billionaires, and they took me out to dinner, and I had the opportunity to sit down and interview them and ask them. This is an article I read in Forbes magazine, yeah, Forbes.com, and I wanted to know if it was true. I wanted to know why. I wanted to know how they made their money and what changed. And every one of them confirmed, yeah, I meditate every day. And knowing what happens with meditation and knowing the psychological process that takes place in meditation, it's not talked about. I am huge on following Abraham Hicks. I have to clarify this, that at the same time, around that same time, about a year ago, I had some friends connect me with Abraham Hicks and say, hey, you really need to take a look at this. And sure enough, it was a meditation where she sat down and started to go through the process. And it's actually one of my favorite meditations. And I practiced it. And I'm like, okay, I have had the power of manifestation most of my life since I was 5, where if I say something, I get it. If I want it, I get it. If I wish for it, I get it. To the point where I have to be very careful what I say, which is why I'm so cautious to make sure that my words are articulate. I have to make sure that are these going to hurt somebody, because I have been careless with my words before. I have manifested the wrong things. And I started to get into it, really dive deep into what's going on with the psychology of it. And this is it. I was just watching a thing on TikTok, and she was talking about it, and she was right, but she didn't know why. She didn't know why she was right. And because she didn't know why she was right, she said a couple things that I just went, close, you're there. And technically she's right. But she was saying a lot of other extra stuff that because she wasn't trained in psychology, she didn't understand. So I really want to just clarify this once and for all, exactly how manifestation works. So this is the psychology behind manifestation. That's it. So whenever you want something, whenever you do something, you go into it thinking, I want a job that pays $60,000 a year. Now, we all think that we have our conscious mind, and we all like to think that our conscious mind is 100% of who we are, or maybe it's 99% of who we are. And the subconscious mind is somewhere behind us doing whatever the subconscious does. And I will never forget when I saw the statistic taken from CDC and NIM saying 95% of your actions are determined by your subconscious, which means 5% of your life is determined by your conscious mind, which means you are your subconscious's little bitch. Your subconscious runs the show. Now, if you're not communicating with your subconscious, if you're not aware of your subconscious, if you are dismissing your subconscious, throwing it away, going, you don't know anything, and you throw it away, your subconscious comes back with a vengeance, because that's what a subconscious does. So unless you are hands-on, really deep with knowing your subconscious on a real palsy level, your subconscious is going to be off doing whatever it wants. and you are just being dragged along for the ride. This is a fact. Unless you are working with your subconscious as a team, unless you are in there doing the mental work every single day, doing the maintenance. And here's a clue: billionaires are, millionaires have, they do, which is why they're making the money they're making. It's because, and this is it, this is the divide between the impoverished subconscious and the wealthy subconscious. And when you're manifesting, you're tapping into this. This is really what's going on. And people talk about frequencies. Yes, they're right. There is frequency. But let me show you what's really going on in the background. So this is how it works. Let's say you go into something and you say, I want a job that pays me $100,000 a year. Now you go in, and in most cases, a lot of people think, I don't deserve that money. I don't want that money. Or they feel guilt, or money issues comes up, or that thing that your mother said to you when you were 5 to 25 years old is still ingrained deep into your subconscious. So you go out there, you start putting out applications, and this is where your subconscious comes out and goes to work. In fact, I'm going to show you a few examples of this. So you go out there and you throw out like 800 applications, and you're excited, and you make sure it's clean and clear and precise, and you think, all right, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this. And then you don't. And you go, okay, what's going on? What you don't know is your subconscious is actually not on board with this. Your conscious mind might be driven to go, I want this, but your subconscious mind might not be on board. Your subconscious mind is then going to do everything in its power to sabotage you. But because you're not tuned into your subconscious, you have no idea that that's what's going on. So when Abraham Hicks comes along, when any meditation comes along to teach you positive affirmation and how to manifest, what they're really doing is trying to recondition your subconscious to come over to the conscious minds of the brain, or the conscious mind's side of the brain. That's really what you're doing. Now, repeat it long enough, and yeah, it might work. But if you don't do the shadow work, it will never work. It won't. Now, here I am as a child making wishes, and this boom, 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 getting what I want. And when I am 100% on board, and I know when I am 100% on board because I've got a plethora of people in my head, and I've got a plethora of, I've got a whole chorus in here. So I have to make sure that everybody is on board. It's a process. With that being said, if somebody's off, I can make wishes all I want, but they're going to drag their heels. Everyone has to be on board. We are talking about 100% unity, absolutely unified with the self. Now, in order to pull this off, you have to do the shadow work. In order to do shadow work, you have to talk to your subconscious. To talk to your subconscious, you have to meditate. That's what you're doing when you meditate, which is why billionaires and millionaires meditate. They're talking to their subconscious to say, okay, guys, how's everyone feeling today? Because today we're going to make $1 million. How does everyone feel about that? Does everyone feel good about that? And the subconscious in the billionaire's mind goes, yes, let's do it, because they've done the shadow work. Unfortunately, and as for everybody else, that's not happening because they haven't done the shadow work. Now, you know who's really, really good at unifying the subconscious and getting everybody on board? Narcissists. They are really, really good at unifying their subconscious. In fact, they've mastered the art. They are really good at making sure. I need to clarify. Grandiose narcissists are. Vulnerable narcissists are not good at this at all. Grandiose narcissists mastered this. They are phenomenal. Most billionaires, millionaires are grandiose narcissists because they are immune to this kind of, nothing shakes them. Another person's opinion doesn't shake them, because they're grandiose narcissists. Vulnerable narcissists are the opposite of that. They do get shaken. So they seek to control via, it's complicated. It's more, no, it's not complicated. It's a vulnerable narcissist is they feel insecure. They feel threatened. I mean, all narcissists do, but their primary mode is be defensive, be vulnerable, be quiet, be cute, be victim. Like really most vulnerable, no, every one of them. I've yet to meet one that contradicts this. When I meet a vulnerable narcissist, I almost feel bad for them. I'm like, oh my God, they're so delicate. They're so gentle. They're so sweet. So then you wrap your arms around them and you take them in. As an empath, I got to comfort. As an empath, I've got to hug and soothe and console. And then the vulnerable narcissist gets triggered, and then that ugly narcissistic side comes out. And then afterward, it turns off. They go back, and they're back to being, oh, the poor things. What can I do to help you? This is the trap with vulnerable narcissists. Vulnerable narcissists are difficult to spot. They are very difficult to spot. Now, the grandiose narcissist, that's easy. They flaunt their narcissism. They're not ashamed of it. They are constantly turned on, constantly triggered by their narcissism, that arrogance, and that I can't call it's not confidence. They bury their insecurity so deep, dark down into themselves that it just doesn't, it just doesn't, it's not there. It's really true arrogance in its purest form. And they've blown up this arrogance to the point where nothing phases them. It's their defense. And they've mastered this defense. It's like a vulnerable narcissist is a narcissist in training, but a grandiose narcissist is a master of narcissism. And when you have that master narcissist, that grandiose narcissist, again, everything's a spectrum. You've got your vulnerable all the way up to the grandiose. And I know there's a couple more types of narcissism in there, but I want to focus primarily on the grandiose narcissist. They have this fortified, solid, nothing's going to touch me. Yeah. And these are the people who do the shadow work. These are the people, not all the shadow work, but that's enough that they get on the topic of money. They have 100% of their subconscious backing them up. Most of us do not have 100% of our subconscious backing us up. That is when the subconscious goes to work and starts sabotage. And it'll sabotage without us realizing it. One of my favorite moments is I was applying for jobs a while back, and I was like throwing out, I applied to probably 30 different jobs, and I threw out my resume to all those different locations. And in the back of my head, way, way in the back, I was thinking things like, you haven't corrected your resume. Your resume is not updated. You know, you're not going to get any hits off of that because your resume is not up to date. You know, you have to clean up your resume. And I ignored it. I pushed it away, and I just kept shoving it aside and ignoring it because, well, to be perfectly blunt, because 100% of my brain, I have to say, I'm trying to figure out, I'm like doing a body scan right now to try and figure this out. I would say 70% of my subconscious very easily is gung-ho for the healing garden. And I have this 30% part of my subconscious going, yeah, but what if you can't make this work? And because of that self-doubt, I've got that little thing in my head. So I go into the healing garden and I've got that 30% of my brain going, yeah, but what if it doesn't work? So that 30% of the subconscious is now sabotaging the healing garden. And then I'll turn around and I'll apply to jobs, and 70% of the subconscious will sit there and sabotage the resumes going out because it doesn't want to get a job. It wants to work on the garden. And this is what happens when you have a subconscious that's divided. This is what happens. So the purpose of something like Abraham Hicks is actually to brainwash, condition, which is a good thing. It's a classical conditioning. It's common. We see it all the time in psychology. It's a brainwashing or classical conditioning where they are trying to reprogram your subconscious to get on board so that it's 100% united. And once you unite, the sabotage stops occurring. Now you just sit down, you focus, and you go. That's when you manifest. Now, the best part of all this is because you no longer are in conflict. We call that cognitive dissonance inside the psychology realm. Because you have eliminated cognitive dissonance, you have now stepped into the frequency. This is the vortex. The vortex is consistency. It's all hands on deck. It is a single solid direction. And if you want to go with this flow, the flow is basic consistency. It's beyond a shadow of a doubt knowing the direction you go. And the moment you put self-doubt in there, the moment not everybody in your mind is on board, you're gonna have that inside job. Literally, it's an inside job where somebody is sabotaging and trading secrets, but it's your own subconscious. So that is the core of how manifestation works. That's where it's coming from. Now, with these energies, and they're right. I've heard a lot of people talk about it's the energy that does it. It is the energy, but energy is a direct consequence from feelings, and feelings come from thoughts. So the process is, and this is psychology, this is you think a thought, you have a feeling from that feeling generates an emotion, or I'm sorry, the thought generates an emotion, the emotion generates an energy. So if you think, I'm never going to do this, there's the thought, and immediately, like, sparks it, there's the feeling, there's the emotion, there's the hormone that jumps out, their hello amygdala, it jumps out and it produces that emotion, and that hormone, that emotion completely alters your nervous system, and then poof, now you've got the energy. And if the energy is offloading this way, you want to make sure that you're not going upstream, you want to make sure you're going downstream. That's the vortex. And what ends up happening is, if you have a positive thought, then you release a different hormone. Literally, when you think negative thoughts, you're dumping cortisol into your system. When you think, I got to write this one down. When you think negative thoughts, you dump cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone, the stress hormone. It is not, cortisol is dangerous. Avoid it at all costs. You dump cortisol into your system. So by consciously, deliberately putting yourself in a position where you're only thinking happy thoughts, or you're really focusing and generating those happy thoughts, or you complain, or you have negative thoughts, you want to balance them right away with positive thoughts, because you want to flush out the cortisol, you want to flush out the hormones and the bad energy, which replaces the good hormones, the good energy. And so it's you control your thoughts. And this is again where meditation comes in, because meditation absolutely is the art of controlling your thoughts. That's why we meditate, is because we are trying to control our thoughts. Because by controlling and disciplining your thoughts, then you have the ability to literally cherry pick which emotions you want to feel. Imagine being able to cherry pick your feelings. In addition to those feelings, they reduce the hormone, which creates the energy. The energy exudes through your system, and now you've stepped into the vortex, or you've stepped out of it. But it's all dependent upon which team your subconscious is playing for. Is your subconscious on team you, or is your subconscious opposing team you? The reason why your subconscious would oppose team you is because of abuse. That is 100% the only reason why your subconscious opposes team you. So one of the things you really need to work on is making sure that all the players are on the same team, that your subconscious is on team you, and you have the ability to control your thoughts, or at least discipline your thoughts, so that you can produce the right emotions you want. Now you're ready to step into the vortex. Now you're ready to start manifesting. So if you haven't done this work and you just start quoting Abraham Hicks, okay, and it might work, it's going to definitely take longer, because you're from the outside trying to recondition programming into your subconscious. But if it's a deep, deep issue, like a daddy issue, really, really deep, if it's a trauma issue, sorry, full respect to Abraham Hicks, it's not going to work until you do the shadow work. Because classical conditioning and brainwashing does not trump grief and shadow work and trauma and the reprogrammed conditioning of your safety being dependent upon it if you think differently than your abuser. So you've got to make sure, and this is why manifestation doesn't work for a lot of people, is because they're trying to manifest without doing any of the shadow work. So that is manifestation in a nutshell, what it looks like on the inside. I do meditation for beginners every morning around 8:30, Monday through Friday. you are more than welcome to join me. It's Meditation for Beginners. The link is listed below, and I walk you through how to meditate and how to use meditation to start addressing and pulling apart all of your emotions. That way you can start identifying and doing shadow work safely. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.